I'm Dave Munger. I'm the Executive Director of the Council of Neighbors and Organizations. Our Assistant Director is Sarah. She's the one who's been doing all the hard work on this. Very glad to have so many of you here. Thanks for getting up so early in the morning. I hope you enjoy the bagels and the coffee. And if the coffee's too strong, blame Sarah.
It is too strong, I'm sorry.
Monday morning, Dave.
Just a couple quick things. You're welcome to get up and get coffee and bagels and orange juice. We have two restrooms in here. One is right behind this young man in the green t-shirt, and the other's on the other side of the door, the second door on the left. Help yourselves. Good morning. And this is the first time we've ever done this, so I can't tell you how good it feels to see this room full. And to our knowledge, there has not been one of these that's brought together, and our series brings together regularly officials from the county and from the city. We don't think that's been done in this sort of format before, so you've confirmed that we were on the right track. That's very nice. And it's great to have these three gentlemen here. I'm going to introduce them in just a minute. I want to say a couple things about Kono. We are here to help empower neighborhoods. We're here to help educate, train, and empower neighborhood leaders. And there are two types of neighborhoods that we concentrate on. Nice to have you guys here. And those are HOAs, homeowner associations, which are a legal term, if nothing else. HOAs generally have covenants and other things that they can use to help them manage their particular part of the community. Neighborhood associations are the other type of term, and those are not covenanted, generally speaking. There are exceptions to most of those rules, but neighborhood associations are largely just voluntary and have to do things without the benefit of something like a covenant, which allows them to enforce a particular rule. We work with both. And what we do is normally done in most communities, our size certainly, and larger, by a governmental organization, either a city or a county department. We do it here as a largely voluntary organization, almost entirely supported by voluntary funds, contributions, etc., which brings me to the pitch, the message from our sponsor, and that is, if you haven't joined Kono, we'd love to have you do that. $25 per individual per year and $50 per organization, a neighborhood organization per year. And then if you are with a larger organization and would like to be a sponsor of Kono, we'd be glad to talk to you about that as well. We have three presenters here. They're each going to speak for about 10 minutes, and then we'll open for questions. So we would ask you to hold your questions, since 10 minutes is not a lot of time to explain some fairly large operations here with quite a few people under each of these guys. So I'm going to start to my right with Peter Wysocki, who is the Planning and Development Director. Correct?
Yes.
Or
at least today I am.
Planning and Development Director for the City of Colorado Springs. And then next to him is Craig Dossie, who is the Executive Director of Development Services for the County of El Paso. And next to him is Roger Lovell, who is the building official for the Pikes Peak Regional Park. And building official sounds, okay, so he's the building official. But he has a big building and a lot of people who report to him, and a very unique funding operation as well, which is amazing. And so we've asked these folks to talk about what they do, what their departments do, walk through the planning process as it relates to each of their departments, and then perhaps talk from their perspective about why land regulations and zoning and code are important. What are, from their perspective, what are neighborhood plans and comprehensive plans, and how do they get involved in those, and then why is it important to have a planning commission, or in Roger's case, why is it important to have a board? Actually, you've got a company board. Yeah. So maybe a little bit about what each of those do and why that's important. And Roger well, I won't say a whole lot, but Roger's role extends across 2 counties. Just 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
2 counties,
I'll touch it.
and he'll talk about that. So thank you all for being here. I think we've got enough seats for just about everybody. There's a couple more vacant, and we're glad to have you here.
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us here. Thank you, Kono, for sponsoring this. And I'll stand out. I always feel
Oh, if I might, before you get started, Sarah's going to be the timekeeper. So for
Yes.
10 minutes, she'll give each speaker a 2-minute warning, and then she'll be ruthless about it. And if you
The
haven't
timer's
run
still
afoul of her-
going, you're eating into
So now I feel like a citizen of city council meeting. Ticker going.
You had until the bluebird.
It's so good.
Bluebird, okay. The first bluebird.
It doesn't work.
Well, shoot. Well, anyway, well, thank you for hosting this. I really appreciate it. I tried doing the millennial thing and not print out my notes, so I'll go off my phone. So I apologize if I look a little distracted, but I'm reading some notes.
It's the least the county can do.
I won't get into that. So that used up about 5 minutes. Okay, so a little bit about our department and kind of how we're structured, because I think it's important on how the different functions of the city are intertwined and related, and kind of how it relates to neighborhoods. So our department is planning and community development. And although Craig's title is a little different, we're basically the same. We have the same positions. We hold the same positions. He is executive in front of us. So our department consists of a number of different divisions. Land use review and development review enterprise, that's one. Land use review is the division that reviews, is the primary facilitator of development review projects. Many of you may be familiar within your own neighborhood when there's new development proposed. The land use review staff reviews those applications, facilitates the process throughout the life of the project, meaning from the time it's submitted to the time it goes vertical and it's constructed, and then final inspection on the building and the site improvements. And I'll get into that here in a little bit because I think that's a very important part. The second part is urban planning, which is a nice way of saying we have staff dedicated just to work on projects for the downtown area and also including the Ivy Wild South Nevada. We have 2 planners for that division, Ryan Kiefer-Tiller. Hi. Hello, Ryan. There. It's a new division that was recently formed, given the amount of projects within the downtown area and the downtown proper area. We felt important to have dedicated staff to help landowners, developers, and neighborhoods address development review. Engineering development review services, they don't really get much press time or media attention, but they're the engineers that review things like drainage, traffic, access, just on-site improvements, make sure that the project is engineered well. Once again, they work very closely with the planning staff, because they're part of the team. We have a team approach, and they work very tightly together. Let's see. Then we have comprehensive planning. Do any of you know Carl Schuler? Raise your hand if you do. All right. He's been around the community for, it sounds bad, but for decades. He used to work in the county as their comprehensive planner. Now he's with the city for the last 6, 7, or 8 years. He is in charge of our comprehensive planning. And what is comprehensive planning? I'm being really quick here because we only have 10 minutes. But comprehensive planning is really the blueprint for the physical development of the city. How the city should develop, where residential, commercial uses should be developed. Is there appetite within a given community to have mixed of uses, meaning having commercial and residential in close proximity and sometimes on the same site? That's typically referred to as mixed-use development, or when we have mixing of residential and non-residential uses. So So it's really more of a long-range planning effort versus reviewing plans on a day-to-day basis for, as individual projects come in. And then we have two more. One is community development, and that is, of those of you that know Amy Cox, she's been around our community for a number of years as well. We administer HUD, Housing Urban Development, federal grants, either through home programs or through CDBG. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant. We are currently, we fund a number of projects, but some of the bigger projects we're funding currently is the Springs Rescue Mission expansion. That's funded through, in part, funded through Community Development Block Grant. Of course, Amy works a number of topics, including initiatives to end homelessness, affordable housing, and other very important social and housing programs here within the city. And last but certainly not least, and probably one that should be one of the most important parts of the services or functions that we provide to neighborhoods is our code enforcement. And we recently renamed code enforcement to neighborhood services. And that was done strategically because some of you would, majority of us, including myself, think that arguably we don't have enough code enforcement in the city. But be careful what you ask for, but as soon as we write a letter of violation to the person that's allegedly violating, they complain that we get into their business too much. And then we don't get that issue abated, and of course the complainant complains that we are not strict enough or we don't enforce enough. So there's always two sides of the story with that. Nonetheless, we do have code enforcement, believe it or not. We changed it to neighborhood services because my philosophy is a little different than what perhaps it has been under the police department, and they recently transferred from the CSPD to the planning department. And that is to not to be, and I don't like to use the word proactive enforcement, because that means we're driving around and issuing tickets or citations, notices of violation, although that needs to be done. But also be a little bit more, now I lost my train of thought, preventative. To teach the neighborhoods, to assist the neighborhoods with KONO on what the city's regulations and ordinances are when it comes to weeds, when it comes to what we call nuisance cases. You know, you can't just have an old couch in your front yard, cars on blocks in your driveway, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to be do more outreach, and we do hope to change the course of our efforts with neighborhood services. We recently hired, and he started about 6 weeks ago, a new manager for that division. His name is Mitch Gomez, and he comes to us from City of Phoenix. He spent a number of years there, so a large city, a lot of different neighborhoods and code enforcement issues. So we do hope that he brings some larger city experience to Colorado Springs. And it's also 2 minutes. Are you kidding me? So I better hurry up then. So the City of Colorado Springs just started its rewrite, I will call it, of the city's comprehensive plan. And it'll be about a 2-year process. We have a 17-member steering committee, of which KONO is represented, has a seat at the steering committee. We have a number of other stakeholders that are part of that committee as well. It will be we will deploy a very robust citizen engagement and education process on what a comprehensive plan is, how you can get involved, how your voices can be heard. We have a number of different ways to do that. First and foremost, we do have a website. We have an app. It's Plan COS. That's the tagline, if you will. If you go on the city's website, type in Plan COS, we'll direct you right to it. We've hired a gaggle of consultants to help us with that. Like I said, it'll be about a 2-year process. It will be ultimately presented to the City Planning Commission and then to the City Council for adoption. It is going to be a policy document. We hope to, out of the process, identify some of the most important topics that are facing the city. I anticipate that redevelopment, infill, and neighborhood planning would be probably top 3 or 4. We as a city really need to address our neighborhoods. We are very large geographically, 200 square miles. We're one of the lowest density cities of our size. We have a lot of brand new neighborhoods which are doing fine. They have HOAs, they have metropolitan districts. Out of time.
You can wrap up your sentence.
So I do hope that we can address some of the older, mature neighborhoods that really need to have more specific neighborhood plans. And I can answer, and please ask me the question later, because since I am out of time, ask me a question about neighborhood planning when you have the opportunity, because I think that is very important. That it's been missing in the city of Colorado Springs for a number of years. Also, when it's your time to ask questions, ask about the Planning Commission and what is the role of the Planning Commission, because there are sometimes we do a lot of we review a lot of applications or development projects administratively, and often people want us to deny those projects because the citizens either feel they're not compatible, consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I didn't get a chance to get into the zoning part as well, but zoning really establishes what you can and cannot do on your property. And if the zoning allows property to be built with a commercial building, let's say an office building or a multifamily building, a fourplex, a sixplex, the city has very limited authority to deny that. It's like somebody saying you cannot build your single-family home on your property. Your zoning allows you to build a single-family home, therefore we need to allow you to build that single-family home. There are standards for development that the development needs to comply. But the Planning Commission is your kind of your first level of appeal, your first level of engagement with elected leadership of the city. So with that, I'll end and turn it over.
I'm going to ask Sarah to hold up on her clock.
And my name is Craig Dossie. I am the Executive Director of what is now Planning and Community Development, which used to be Development Services for the county. What I would do is probably draw your attention to that map over there. If you look at El Paso County, it extends all the way from an alpine terrain all the way to what is really desert, and from Black Forest all the way out to the grasslands out by Callahan. So El Paso County covers a very large area, a very diverse area. A lot of what we do in my department is similar to what Peter does in the city. What I would say is different is that we have to work with a lot of external agencies. Peter has the luxury of having one utility provider, having one fire department, only a handful of school districts. We have hundreds. We have, I don't know how many fire districts, school districts, not to mention getting to work with each of the military installations, the surrounding counties, and all of the incorporated cities in El Paso County. So when we have a development application that comes in, oftentimes we have to send it to multiple federal agencies and multiple state agencies for review. So we have a very kind of broad brush scope, if you will, in terms of the types of agencies that we deal with. One of the ones that we deal with the most is probably CDOT, primarily because when you look at the areas that are yet to be developed along I-25, Highway 94, Highway 24, most of those are in El Paso County, in the unincorporated area of the county. I guess that's probably the big thing that I would stress. We get a lot of people that call us and say, I'm in the city, I need you to look at this zoning that's occurring and I need to comment on it. And although you may be in an urban area, you actually might be in the county, because there are areas that are urbanized that are in El Paso County that aren't under the city's jurisdiction. They're actually in the unincorporated portions of the county. So it's important when you go on the assessor's website and figure out where your property falls. It'll tell you who has zoning authority over the property. Those are kind of the high level things that I hear a lot. I can go through all the stats in here. Primarily, again, like Peter said, we have planning, both current and we're trying to reinvigorate our long-range planning. We're hoping to do a couple comprehensive plans here in the next couple of years to kind of tail off of what Peter's doing with the city. And then we also, as I said, we have current planning, that's the stuff, and you come in the front counter and you want to build a deck, or you want to build a home on a residential lot. You can do that in our office, and we're actually conveniently located right next to Roger. We're across the atrium over at the Pikes Peak Regional Development Center, sorry. So we're right next door. A lot of times you have to go through us and through the building department in order to get a building permit for a deck, something like that. We deal with very diverse development. When I say very diverse, Peter might deal with a high-rise, or he might deal with an apartment building or subdivisions. We deal with everything from a wind farm to a mining application to dog kennels to subdivisions to rezonings to power plants. We see it all. And when people ask me why I like working for the county, that's the reason why I like working for the county. You never know what's going to come in the next day. So if something comes up and you're not quite sure what's going on, and it's something like that, you can always call us and say, hey, what's the deal here? What are the regulations? What kind of involvement can we have at the neighborhood level? There's always an opportunity for involvement. As Peter said, and it's the same for the county, we do have some administrative authorities. So there are certain types of applications that we can approve administratively. Most of the ones I just mentioned, we can't approve administratively. So things that really have a bigger impact on neighborhoods, those are all things that require going to the County Planning Commission, which is different than the City Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. What makes us different in another way from the city is that we're statutory. The city is home rule, which means they can adopt their own regulations that guide activities within the city. We have to function within the police powers that are given to us by the state legislature and state statute. So we're very different in that regard. When you look at especially development regulations, we're limited in some ways in what we can and can't adopt in terms of regulations on development. But in some ways that's also good because there's a lot of case law that support the things that we do. I put on here that we are trying to become more active in terms of sidewalk construction inspections and code enforcement. I agree with Peter, maybe proactive is not the right word on code enforcement. But the way that our code enforcement functions right now is on a complaint basis. And I think we all know kind of how that works. When one neighbor complains, then there's the cross complaint and then the cross complaint, and before long the whole neighborhood's involved and nobody likes each other. And in some ways I think it's better when the county kind of mediates that and maybe is more proactive and goes out and looks for those types of things so that we're not relying completely on neighbors to make complaints. We'll still be receiving them. But there has been a push somewhat from the Board of County Commissioners to become more proactive on code enforcement. I know me personally, some of the stuff that I see out in the county, particularly on the gateways coming into the city, I don't particularly like a lot of junk vehicle or vehicle repair type operations. Personally, I don't think that's the best look for the county, certainly not the best thing for the city. So we are trying to become more proactive and try to take a better approach to dealing with those people.